Back in May 2008, DC unleashed Final Crisis. Now, this was a comic written by Grant Morrison. Started off with J.G. Jones as the artist, but then kind of midway through it, Carlos Pacquiao came on board. Doug Monarchy came on later. J.G. Jones made the ominous comment that he wished somebody had just picked Doug Monarchy in the first place. But what an event this was. I'm going to go over the plot. Somebody recently asked about it on a live stream, so I'll do a slightly, but just slightly, more serious version of it this time. Talk a little bit about Final Crisis and everything that went down. Hey everybody, this is Perch, talking Final Crisis, the 2008 comic that came out, ran from May to January, and this was intended to be a really big deal, but it had a number of kind of odd bits to it. This was a Grant Morrison production. It was really, it had the 51 issue countdown to Final Crisis, which I think was originally named something else, actually, at the beginning, and then it changed to Countdown. I think it was just called Countdown, and it became Countdown to Final Crisis. But at any rate, it kind of really was intended to be a huge crisis-like moment, spearheaded by Grant Morrison. Morrison at the time, of course, was completing a fairly epic run on Batman, I guess he still had some more Batman after this, but he was really the Batman guy. Prior to this, and he was taking Batman through the ringer with Batman Rest in Peace, and Batman was basically killed, but it was a confusing death because he was not killed, and he showed up in Final Crisis where he was killed, except he wasn't actually killed. But there was, if you're trying to kind of follow along with the is Batman dead or not, it became really hard to tell. And then they're doing these kind of Requiem funeral type issues for Batman in those comics, but it was unclear if the funeral was based off of the death of, there was a storyline reason that they rolled out, but it was super sloppy, and just for the casual reader, you could not tell like what's going on with Batman. That was that became, a lot of people were saying that in 2008. A lot of people really liked Grant Morrison's run. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but it was this always felt like there was a very weird scheduling conflict around him, that the writer of Final Crisis and the writer of Batman were not on the same page, except it was the same guy. So that was confusing. But at any rate, what went on with Final Crisis? So I'm going to be a little bit flippant here, please. Continuity nuts, don't come in here. And I know. Basically, the plot goes like this. Darkseid has been defeated and, quote unquote killed, but his spirit is still alive following a battle of new gods. Now his spirit goes roaming around the galaxy looking for someplace to hang out, and it comes to Earth, and it falls to Earth. But because it falls to Earth, the entire space-time and everything is starting to get kind of sucked into darkness. Darkseid's whole being is unnatural, and so it's causing massive problems and ultimately setting up a final victory or revenge from that character. So Darkseid falls to Earth and goes and hangs out in a club that he very sneakily names the Darkside Club. Very clever branding there. I see what you did. And he assembles some various other members of the new gods, like Granny Goodness and others, and they have human forms that they're running around with. Granny Goodness, does not have a human form. She is possessing a Green Lantern at the time, who's been made into a special super duper Green Lantern that is supposed to enforce the will of the Guardians. He also has this partner called Libra, who's running around saying kind of sneaky, ominous things to various people. And as Libra tries to unite the villains, they wind up murdering Martian Manhunter as kind of the first issue, which was bad news. Meanwhile, one of the monitors, an exiled member of the Monitor, Nix Uotin, basically comes to Earth, and he's having to live in an apartment as punishment because it's a really crappy apartment that they put him in. So Detective Turpin is trying to figure out what's going on with a bunch of missing children. And so he tracks them down to this basic Darkside club, where he is then kidnapped, and they try and basically take the boss Darkseid, the human host, and transfer the evil consciousness of Darkseid into Turpin. And then they do a bunch of kind of genetic engineering and other things to make his body look like Turpin. So Turpin's turning evil and can't help it. He's slowly being possessed. And as that's happening, kind of two things happen in quick succession. One, Granny Goodness, who's posing as this super duper Green Lantern, frames Hal Jordan for the murder of Orion. Now, Orion has been killed by a time bullet coming back in time and shooting him like dead. And so Hal Jordan is taken off the table. Batman figures out that there's shenanigans in place, but he gets very quickly captured, I guess in a weakened state because he was just dead in his other title. And he's taken to this Darkside club over in Bloodhaven where they start torturing him. As everything is starting to look pretty crappy, bad weather and everything else, Alan Scott, original Green Lantern, enacts something called Article X, which is like a giant superhuman draft to get all the heroes to kind of look into what's going on. So while they're doing this, a bomb goes off and mortally wounds Lois Lane, which sends Superman into the future in an attempt to save her. And Wonder Woman gets infected by the anti-life equation by a super slutty, kind of crazy Mary Marvel, who's got a shaved head and is just very, very promiscuous, we shall say. She's a bad version. She's a bad girl now. While this is going on, Barry Allen, who's somehow been resurrected from within the Speed Force, is racing back in time and catches up with Wally West, and basically is trying to race the bullet that's going back in time faster to prevent the murder of Orion. Now they fail, and when they come back out into current time a month later, having not run well enough, the entire planet has been transformed by the anti-life equation, with only small pockets of heroes hanging out there as the resistance. This includes the tattooed man who got a big push and then vanished, and the super young team, which was Morrison's kind of idea to do a super wacky Japanese style group of people. So as all of this is going on, and there's a big fight between the tiny members of the resistance and this rapidly consuming zombie-like anti-life equation bit, Batman basically gets a gun and puts in the time bullet and uses it to wound Darkseid, but Darkseid turns around and hits Batman with his Omega beam, seemingly killing him and turning him into a skeleton creature. Superman is like, enough's enough, and he returns and basically blows up into Darkseid's lair, grabs Batman's corpse, drags it off. Sad, we get a little nod to the original Crisis, and the Flashes do some speed shenanigans by reaching superluminal velocity, warping time, and basically redirecting the bullet and the beams from Darkseid back into Darkseid, basically killing him off once and for good. However, even though he is dead, his dying essence drags all of reality into shit, and time and space break down completely. Superman is left in the darkness at the end of creation and has to build something called the Miracle Machine, which is a machine that grants miracles. And he does this and then wishes for a happy ending. However, as he's doing that, bad news, because the real evil behind all this, Mandrak, the Dark Monitor, the father of the previously mentioned Nix Yotian, comes around. He's kind of like a vampire evil bastard. And so he shows up and is terrorizing the whole world. But Superman's solar energy in his own cells power the Miracle Machine and sings. And in his singing, basically using his superpower breath, he sings the vibrational frequency of the life force equation and brings a bunch of other Supermen from all realities, as well as the Zoo crew and the Super Young team and a bunch of angels for some reason. And they all have a huge fight with Mandrak, and they stab him with a big light spear, and they have a happy ending. all is well. Except Batman's dead, but he's really not, because we discover that he's traveled back in time, having been not shot by the time bullet, but shot by the anti-life equation beams that transport him back in time. Sorry, the Omega beams, not the anti-life equation beams. What am I thinking? And he heads back to where Anthro was and draws bat symbols on the wall, because as you do. And that's what happened. So that was Final Crisis. It was received confusedly by by the fans. The problem was you had this event that was really pushed as like deep evil is coming to the Earth, and the first couple issues accomplished that, and then it kind of took a left turn into super singing and time bullets and vampire monitors and other things going on. Really took a turn there, and it was a hard, I don't know, it's a hard one to wrap your head around. The reception was, I would say, mixed. You know, there are definitely some people who like Grant Morrison and like everything he does, but it was not considered a huge success. Secret Invasion was going on around the same time when Marvel and that smoked it in terms of sales, and generally speaking, I mean, DC had a lot of defenders at that time, and most people were like, I have no idea what you're trying to do here. The New 52 would come soon after this, and we have not spoken of Singing Superman again. But what did you think of Final Crisis? Did you like the series? Didn't like the series? Confused? Love it? Hate it? Let me know in the comments below. This was a weird one. I mean, DC has a strong reputation for weird events. It's not like polarizing like Identity Crisis was, or Heroes in Crisis. This was more like confusing as hell for people. And even people who are like, it wasn't confusing. It was perfectly normal to understand. Nobody can describe this without, chuckling a little bit. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Did you love this event, hate this event, wish there were more of it, have forgotten about it completely, never heard of it before, heard my description, and now you're either fascinated or terrified to go pick it up? Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and thanks for listening.